Welcome everyone to Grow, designing a website to be loved. Grow.ca is where you can find out more information. And today we are going to learn about what it takes to have a website that not just you love, but it's all about your audience loving it. And Emily is joining us today, our guest speaker, and she's going to give us some tips on how to do designs, things to avoid, what to look for. You do not need to be an expert because Emily is going to make it simple, impactful, and highlight some things to consider. And on that, Emily Watson, welcome. She is a graphic designer, a social media specialist, and more. She has been working as a graphic designer for 8+ years now, professionally, and started out at Acorn Studio Marketing with myself and continues to support us and also has other work and ventures on her own. She's also co-founder of Grow. And so we're always glad when she can come back. She is about building brand strategies, brand stories, online communities, has a lot of experience in that area. And when she's not doing this, she always has her nose in a book or hanging out at the gym or hanging out in nature and doing a lot of other stuff too. So welcome, Emily. And you can learn more, anybody, about her at emilyk.ca.
Awesome. Thank you for that intro. Okay, so today we are going to talk about designing a website your audience will love. And we're going to have a little bit of a heart-to-heart at the beginning. I'm going to hold your hand really tight and just remind you that your website is not for you. Surprise! So what we're going to talk about today is, why designing your website for your audience is really important, why it matters. We're going to look at the difference between the I love it and, my audience needs it. We're going to also take a look at some practical tips for aligning your design choices, and then some audience repellent, some mistakes that sometimes are, that I often spot, but are really easy fixes. So getting into the design and the planning of your website, unfortunately, your website is not about your favorite fonts. It's not about your favorite colors. It's about building connections and turning your visitors into your biggest fans, the ones that are on the sidelines cheering you on and want to support you. Your website is about building credibility and building trust. When people land on your website, you want them to say, yep, this is for me. I belong here. You want your audience to feel understood and, keep them sticking around, signing up for your newsletters, downloading your resources, buying your products or like booking a call. You want them to feel comfortable and seen. You also want to boost that engagement and that conversation. You don't want people second guessing, what you're saying, or if they think that they're not sure if this is for them. Your design should be well thought out. It's easy to read fonts, clear call to actions, high contrast color schemes. You don't want people, thinking too much about what they're reading. It's also about the page experience. When people are landing on your website, how does that whole flow work? We're going to get into user experience in a minute. But sometimes, experiences can be disruptive with buttons that might not work or pages that aren't, there. When you land on a website and you click on an article and that 404, that oops page pops up and it's like, what? Okay, like I thought I was clicking on something that was for me, but it's actually not here. It's not linked. So you want your website experience to be easy to navigate and keeping people reading and, hopefully them sharing with their besties. So during all of this, when we're talking about experiences, think about a time that you were on a website and you left, whether it was like out of, a hurry, you didn't want to be there. Like what made you bail from a website? Maybe it didn't speak to you. Maybe you felt that it wasn't for you, even though it was a service that you needed. Sometimes I always get people to think about this, in their day-to-day, like if you do have to leave a website, why? What made you leave? When we're talking about audiences, I always ask people, who are we creating this website for? And a lot of people will come back and say, oh yeah, well, my audience, Obviously, who else would I be designing it for? It's like, yeah, well, who's your audience? And sometimes it gets to the point where we don't actually know exactly who our audience is. It's not as obvious as we might think. So here's how we're going to get to know our audience. While we talk about this too, a lot of these exercises and a lot of, the getting to know your audience should actually align a lot with your brand strategy or your marketing strategy or any business planning that you have done already. Your website strategy when it comes to audience piggybacks off of a lot of stuff that you might have already done, like creating an ideal customer profile. How old are they? What does your audience care about? What's keeping them up at night? What do they have for breakfast? What are their problems and how can you solve it? So asking those questions and creating those really intricate customer profiles. When we're designing a website, we're also going to think about, the user journey. So, every step that your audience might take from landing on your website to all the way to booking a call or buying your product. What are those steps that they're going to take? And are they ready to make that decision when they first land on your website? Or are they provided with all of the information needed before they click that buy now or that book call? So thinking about and where they're coming from. So let's say they're coming from Facebook ad, or they're coming from Instagram, or they are coming from your business card from a networking event. Is that journey there that your audience is going to make it from A all the way to that final point B of booking a call or buying your product, whatever your call to action is? Then taking a look at the language. Like, how does your audience speak? How do they read? If you are someone who works with a lot of medical professionals, you're going to use a lot of medical terminology, but you're not necessarily going to use that terminology if it's for someone who doesn't have a medical background. So knowing the jargon, knowing the lingo, how they're going to understand, but also how they're going to feel comfortable reading your product, reading your website and all of the content on your website. Is it going to feel comfortable for them? Which is a really good practice to do, getting to know your audience. So for example, if we have a website for a personal trainer, your audience could be anywhere between ages 25 to 45. For example, this website is. We build out a really simple, very, very simple customer profile of, who they are, their goals, what they're doing, their behaviors. And we're also going to take at the type of journey that they are going to take when they come to your website, where they're going to come from, the interests that are going to grab their attention when they're scrolling through the website. So, the big, bold headlines. They want to see credentials. They want to see the blog posts. They want to see the resources. And then that decision point. They want to look at other success stories. They want to see your social proof and how you are actually helping people. And then the action at the end is, you're ready to get started. This website offers a 5-day workout plan, a free trial. So this is the journey that you have to think about when you are designing your website for your audience. Next, I want to get into the I love it versus my audience needs it. And this is what it sounds like. So when you say, oh, I love it, this is what I'm hearing. The color palette is so me. I saw this font on Pinterest and I'm obsessed. Or I just love how the layout looks, even if it's a bit hard to navigate. The text is a bit small, but I love how stylish it is. Or my friend has this on their website and it looks super cute. That's my favorite one. A lot of this is I love it as the business owner. But what we want, well, first we're going to do a quick reality check. And, all of these comments, they are about you. It's a really good starting point. And it's not to say that when I work with someone about designing a website, I usually ask them to go to Pinterest, actually just to get a look of where their head is at. And then that conversation comes in of like, okay, well, is this going to work for your audience? We take a good look at, what their needs are, the audience needs, and then the business owner, because you still have to like your website. I'm not saying that you don't love it, but keeping in mind that your audience will always come first. So this is the My Audience Needs It. So this color palette reflects the calming professional vibe my audience responds to. This font is super readable on both desktop and mobile, super important. This layout makes it easy for my visitors to find exactly what they need really, really fast. I turned off video audio play because my audience finds it distracting. And I bumped up the text size because most of my audience visits on mobile. So not only is this the, my audience needs it right now, but, we're taking a look at patterns and asking them questions and turning things that we did into like, okay, like let's improve so my audience can have a better time. Practical tips for audience focused designs. Simple navigation. Your top of your website is going to be one of the first things that people see. And let's be real, nobody wants to look very hard for basic information. We don't really want to have to look at all for anything. Most of us have the attention span of a goldfish. So keeping your menu clear and straightforward, stick to 5 to 7 main options at maximum. And we want clear labels so people don't have to, scratch their head and figure out what that means. We're going to use a color scheme that's suitable for your audience. Now, this exercise will normally be done within your brand, the development of your brand identity, but in some cases, we might not have done that. And that's okay. So when we're designing the website, we're picking the colors, even though you like that really bright colors, it might be the bright pink, the bright neon green, even though it's your favorite color, it might not necessarily with your audience. It might, but sometimes it might not. So stick to a palette that reflects your brand and the vibes with your target visitors. For example, if you're a wellness brand, you might want to stick to like the calming colors. Or if you are like a financial advisor, you might want to use like the strong and bold colors. Pick fonts that are readable and not necessarily just fun. Those script fonts, they are beautiful. They are really nice, but used in body text or subheaders, they might be really hard to read, especially when scaled up, scaled down for mobile, desktop. We really want to have something that's easy on the eyes and something that does stand out and is easily scannable. Please make sure that your website is optimized for all devices. Most people these days are using their phones more, and that's where they're finding all their websites. So a lot of the times, about 50% of your traffic is probably going to be from a mobile device. When you are designing your website, please make sure that you test it on your phone, a tablet, laptop, and desktop. Sometimes people forget the laptop versus the desktop, but your laptop screen is a lot smaller than your actual desktop screen. So please test all of them. We want to have authentic photos. And it's not to say that if you don't have your photos yet, that's totally okay. We can use stock imagery. Just know that most people can pick out the fact that you are using a stock image. If you are using a stock image, maybe you're waiting for photography, or it's just like a filler that you really want to use, find stock imagery that still fits with the overall feel of your brand. For example, if you are a business advisor, we don't necessarily want to see stock imagery of puppies. That doesn't really fit well. So this is where we take some time, we do our research, and we make sure that we're choosing the images that complement our overall feel of our website. And then please keep it quick. Patience is a virtue online, or isn't a virtue online. So compress your images, minimize plugins, make sure that your site load speed is actually under 3 seconds, and your bounce rate will thank you. This is a really good exercise to do. So if you are on your website, or grab somebody else to test out your website and see if your website passed the 5-second test. So can somebody go onto your website, spend 5 minutes or 5 seconds on your homepage, and can they identify what you do? If they can't, maybe the imagery is off. Maybe the text is off and it doesn't exactly fit. This is a really good exercise to do. We're going to talk about common audience repellent mistakes and how to fix them. These mistakes, it's okay. I see them all the time and they are so easy to fix. Anybody can fix them if you have access to your website. Slow load times. This can come from having really large images on your website or having too much video content. It can just slow down the load speed of a web page, which just, it takes a little bit longer. Quick, easy fix, take your images and compress them. You can use a website called tinypng.ca and we'll compress all of them. Really another good tip is if you do have videos on your website, turn off autoplay. That will, autoplay will actually slow down your website. Too much text. I know everybody wants to tell their life story on the website and all for it if you got a great story, but there are ways that we can turn a page from looking like a novel to cleaning it up, making it seem more welcoming. Sometimes when you have too much text on a website, it can steer people away because they might not be mentally ready to read all of it. You want to draw them into those heavy pieces of text. Some easy ways to fix that is just to break it up. Use headers, use bullet points. You can use accordions to hide certain text. And then some good old-fashioned white space is really great to break it up. Flashy animations. Animations are fun. I love them, especially in a really good presentation, but sometimes they can be overwhelming and become very chaotic, especially when you're going back and forth from desktop, laptop to mobile. Sometimes they don't work as well. I would use your animation sparingly. You can do a quick, easy, like fade in, fade out. But if you have stuff that's spinning and flipping, it might make people dizzy. Use those really fancy ones for your call to actions. Inconsistent branding. This one is also an easy fix, but sometimes it takes an outside eye to take a look at. If you're staring at your own website for too long, sometimes those inconsistencies don't show up as easily. And these could be mismatched fonts, colors, images that don't really seem like they place well. We're gonna quick fix. We're gonna pick a simple, consistent color palette and font set. If you are unsure about what fonts to use, pick two. You're going to pick one for your body text and you're going to pick one for your heading text. Rule of thumb. And if you do have a brand style guide, or if you did work with a designer to build your brand, leverage the document that they gave you with picking the fonts that work well for your website. And then we call to actions. This is someone might be ready to work with you, but if they can't find, where to take the next step, you're going to lose them. So if your call to actions sound more like a polite suggestion, then, it might be time to adjust them. You want them to feel ready. And it's like, yes, I want to work with this person. I want to buy this product. You can use action-oriented language like get started, book your spot, download now. So I've said a lot of things, and there is so much more that could have been said. Your website is so important. Let's do a quick recap of everything that we kind of went over. So first, you want to get to know your audience. You're going to review the feedback and get it clear on, who you were designing this website for. It's not for you, the business owner. It's for who you are selling it to. A really good next step is to do a quick website audit. Do a sweep of all your I love it elements and see if there is an audience needs it element that you can replace it with. We can easily go in and we can refresh our call to actions, make the buttons more clear or more action focused. Keep it consistent. Align your fonts, your colors and images. And then we're going to test and adjust. Check your analytics. This should be checked often and make small improvements regularly. If you get feedback from your audience about certain pages, designs, take that and run with it. If someone says that a page isn't readable, or maybe the colors, the contrast is off, and oh, I had a really hard time reading this on this device. Fix it. And ask your audience questions. Or maybe there's certain pages that people just aren't spending a lot of time on. Maybe it's heavy in text. Let's break it up and see what happens and test things out. When your website is launched for the first time, your website is not complete. It is an ongoing project at all times. And as you grow as a business owner, your audience also might grow. It might change, it might adjust. You might think that your audience is this, this black and white, picture audience. Might not be. It might completely shift. You might think you know your audience, but they might be doing something else instead. You have to pivot. And any business person is going to tell you that they have had to pivot over the years, just like your website. Your website will have to pivot. And you just got to go with the flow and you got to adjust it. There are some resources that you can download that are on Grow. They are free within the portal, or you can go to the Grow website and they are available for purchase individually. Some really, really good documents. We have some simple ones like the website pre-launch checklist. It's awesome. It gives you a checklist of things to check if you are about to launch your website, or even if your website is launched. It's a really good list to go through to see if you actually hit everything. We have a brand strategy template. If you do not have a brand strategy, or you have not gone through that exercise, this document, along with the target audience guide and templates, it helps you build that profile and learn the language and the habits of your audience that will help you create a design that works well for everybody visiting your audience that is you want there, and helps you define that user experience. There is also a website design worksheet and checklist, which does have a combination of all of these. But if you are designing your own website, sometimes it can be overwhelming. It's a really good step-by-step, everything that you need when you are building out the actual, like the thought process and strategic elements of your website. And so that concludes everything on why you need to build a website for your audience to love. Websites it's a beast. There's no sugarcoating it.
Cool. Thanks, Emily, for that presentation. A good reminder for any of us who have websites to go back and check these, but also great tips for just getting started.
Yeah.
Because it can be overwhelming. So appreciate that. And we will do some Q&A. And if anyone is watching the recording, please just feel free to drop comments in the recording below too, or to reach out to us at Grow or Emily if connect with her on LinkedIn, because you're on LinkedIn as well, right?
I am, obviously.
Good one. Obvious.